Welcome, Office Postal providers. During this video, we're going to be showing you how to create a service plan on your clients. Let's just jump in. So first, just click on your client. And the first thing that you're going to notice here on the client dashboard is that there are many access that are not available. And the reason for this is that we still don't have a service plan for this client. So the first step will be to click on Service Plan and click on this green button where it says New Service Plan. We just click Create, and then you're going to have our ABA therapy service plan for this client. That was very simple, but it gets a little bit complicated now, so just follow me here. Click where it says ABA therapy, and then we're going to add categories, right? To add categories, we can click here where it says Edit, and then here where it says New Category. So what are categories? Categories will be, I will say, maladaptive behavior. That will be one category because we're going to have different maladaptive behaviors within these specific categories. Another example of a category would be replacement programs, but it could be also goals or, I don't know, you just name it. Let's start with maladaptive behaviors. And I'm just going to click where it says Create. And then I will have my first category. Another category will be replacement programs. And then I click Create. These two, I would say, that are the most common ones, but you can also create other categories, for example, parent training or caregiver training. This is another example, caregiver training. Just follow the general categories of your specific agency. For example, if they call it here, instead of replacement programs, they call it acquisition programs, you can type it there. If the agency is not going to be using caregiver training, at least not to collect data on the system, just keep this part as well. Overall, we're going to have, for the sake of the demo, we're going to have maladaptive behaviors, replacement programs, and caregiver training. So I'm just going to click Update, and the first thing that you're going to notice is I'm going to have my 3 categories, and then what I'm going to be doing is add elements inside each category. So I'm going to start with the maladaptive behaviors, and the first thing that I'm going to do is create a new item. I already have this demo assessment that I'm going to be using for the creation of this service plan. So pretty much what I'm going to be doing is copy and paste and transferring the information. But what you have to do is go directly to the maladaptive behavior section on the original assessment of the client. Copy the name of the first one, in this case is temper tantrum. If you wish to type it, that's perfectly fine as well. And then you can select a start day and an end day. This part right here is optional, but if you want to add a start day that is the same as the service plan, you're more than welcome to do it. Let's say that temper tantrum eventually is mastered and the client doesn't have it anymore and we're not going to be collecting data. The analyst can add an end date, and this, what it do is that the system will not keep generating the data collection sheets for this specific behavior. For now, I'm going to leave it open, which means that the system will create indefinitely these data sheets for this specific behavior. So the next step will be to click on data collection. So pretty much the system will ask me, okay, what type of data collection are you going to be using specific for temper tantrums? We do offer several types of data collection, but in my assessment, I have here that is going to be on frequency. So I just select frequency, and then that's it. The system will automatically tell that we're going to collect it using this X, and that means an occurrence of an event. I'm going to later show you how the data collection sheets will look like. Then the session here will be for charts, how I want to configure my specific tables. In this case, I don't want to show the average I want to show the total amount of tantrums for that specific week. So that's the reason why I'm showing total. In the case that you want to show the average of all the events during that week, you can select it here as well. You also have the option to rename the axis. By default, the x-axis will be the dates, but here you can modify it and add another name. And for the y-axis, we have values, but in this case, we can erase it and enter incidents, for example. Incidents. Okay? Then if we click on objective, this will be to add the different STOs specifically for these maladaptive behaviors. I'm going to show you, if you click here on add objective, you add one by one. But I really like this feature here of add multiples, where you just click, go back to the assessment, you select all the STOs, you copy them, and then you paste them here. An important thing here is that they need to be separated. So you cannot paste it like this, because then the system will not understand that they're two different items. So you just separate them, not like this, only one space, no space between them, but like separated. And then what you're going to do is click here where it says import, and then it will generate all the STOs for that specific maladaptive behaviors. A few things that you can do here, and this is once you start working on the case, you can edit here and add specific start date and mastering date for each STO. This will help you later to generate the monthly automatically. For now, I'm just going to leave it on blank, because definitely we want to get back to this later in another training video. Then you can click here on baseline, and this is an interesting part because you can add as many baselines as you wish. In this case, we have an average of 15 incidents per week, and I don't have a day, so I'm just going to select a random day. Let's say that it was for January 1st, that was my baseline, and it was 15, and in this case was week. Other options that you have here would be per day. You have weeks, you have month, but weeks, I would say that is the one that it's the most common one, but you can add multiple baselines here as well. You just fill the information and select the period. I'm just going to leave the 15 for now. And in the session of recommendations, in this case, it is a maladaptive behavior, so we can add intervention procedures. If you add a specific intervention procedures for tantrum, this will help the RBTs later to when they create their notes. So let me just click here, and for example, I have interventions here. We do offer a list of possible interventions, but we recommend the analyst to select specific interventions for the maladaptive behaviors. This will help the RBTs in the development of their notes. For example, let's use for temp and tantrum, let's use redirection. This is just an example. And if it's not on the list, you're more than welcome to type. So let's put my new intervention. And then click enter, and it will work just as well. Okay, so we just finished temp and tantrum. Let's click update, and then I will have my temp and tantrum here with all the STO. You can hide this as well. So let me just go to the next one. This one I'm going to do it a little bit faster, so you can see the actual time that will take to create the service plan. I will say that it usually takes between 5 to 10 minutes, depending of like how you master the program, but it's pretty straightforward. So let me just do it. I'm just going to create a new item. I'm going to my original assessment, and the next one will be verbal aggression. The difference here is that it will be in rate, and the baseline is 30 incidents per week. So let me just go here, put the name, verbal aggression, then on data collection, I'm going to select rate. Nothing more to do here. On my charts, I'm just going to leave it as it is. My objectives, I'm going to select the STOs. I'm going to click here where it says add multiples. I'll just double check that they're on the right format. Click import. Then baseline I have, it was 30 incidents per week. And that was pretty much my second behavior. I do have another example here for non-compliance as percentage of opportunities. So let me just go there to show you how you set up for percentage of opportunities in this case. So I just click on new item. I add the new maladaptive behavior. And here in data collection, I select, I look for trials, percentage of opportunities. And by default, I'm going to have 10 suggested number of recordings. You can erase this number. If it's 5, you can type it, but by default, it's usually 10. So if it's like that, there's no need to do anything else in this part. So I'm just gonna skip the chart and the objective. Let me just copy and paste them. And in my baseline, I'm just going to add 100%, right? So I'm just gonna put 100, and this is going to represent a week. An important thing here that I noticed now, you need to go back to chart, and instead of value, you can add a percentage here. Incidence. For example, this is an example. You can always type here whatever specific for that behavior, right? So I'm just gonna click update, and I have my other behavior there. Another example that I have for the sake of the training would be partial interval. So I have a behavior that it's going to be collected on partial interval. And for this, I just click on new item, put the name, and then on data collection, I just select, let me just see here, what is it? Oh, here, partial interval. Partial interval is a little bit more complicated because you will have to add more information, but pretty much you can tell the interval length. In this case, my interval is going to be 5 minutes. You can always select the time unit here. So it's going to be 5 minutes, and I'm going to collect it for 12 number of recordings. This is, I would say, for a total of 1 hour. There's other, I've seen, for example, that people collect here in 30 minutes, and then they do for 12 units in total, which represent like 6 hours. Is usually the time of a session, but for the sake of the example, I'm just going to do 5 minutes with 12 number of recordings. It's approximately 1 hour to collect this maladaptive behavior. By default, we're going to have the plus and minuses, so nothing more to do here. Oh, something that I didn't mention before. Here where it says instructions, you're more than welcome to type instructions specific for the RBT to follow while she is collecting these maladaptive behaviors. By default, we just leave it in blank, I would say, but you're more than welcome to give specific instructions to the RBT while collecting something that she needs while she collects the data. I'm just going to copy the STOs. And that's it. Let's say that my baseline is 100% as well. And that represents the average of a week. And then I have 4 different data collection types. Well, so we covered frequency, rate, percentage of opportunity, and partial interval. You can also use duration. Let me just modify this one that appears as rate. I'm just going to modify it so you can see how duration will look like. But you just click here where it says duration, and then you put the number of suggesting recordings and then the units of time that you will be using for that specific behavior. Okay, so I'm just gonna get back to there you go. So that was for the maladaptive behaviors. Now we're gonna be working on the replacement programs. For the replacement programs, I do have, let me just skip all this part because we're just going to jump in directly to the replacement programs. Okay, here. So my first replacement program will be following instructions. This is just an example. And it's going to be collecting using trials. Let's click where it says new item. I just paste the name of the replacement. Then on data collection, I will select here. We have different options, which are DTT, incidentation, and percentage of opportunities. But here we can select. The three of them pretty much work the same, but I know that the names are a little bit different. So the suggested number of recordings by default is going to be 10, and we're going to be using plus and minuses. I'm just going on chart. I can modify the y-axis. I can add here the percentage of opportunities. And here in objectives, I'm just going to copy and paste objectives. I'm just going to erase this tool here. There you go. Click on import, and then I'm just going to be following the tabs. This will be 0% estimate for the day of the assessment, and then that will represent a week. For the replacement programs and the recommendations, they're going to be a little bit different because we can add here activities, like specific activities that we want the RBT to be working with the client in order to improve this skill. And also we can add here reinforcers. All these options here, like I said before, they're options, they're not required, but they do help the RBTs with the specific, I will say, program for this client. So the more information that you give here, it will definitely help them later. If you don't put anything here, that's perfectly fine. They will see all the different activities that the system already set up, also many different reinforcers, but we do recommend to fill this part. So I just click here where it says update, and I will have my first replacement program on the system. Let me see the next one. I also have schedule of activities in percentage. So I'm not going to be doing this one because it's the same type of data collection, but I do believe, there you go. So I'm going to be creating brushing teeth with task analysis. So I'm just going to show you how to do a task analysis. Same workflow, just enter the name of the program, then on data collection, select the specific data collection for the program. In this case is for chaining. And here the system will ask me the different steps, right, for that specific program. So what I will do here is my first step will be turn on water. So I just paste it there, and then I just do the same with the rest. So once I add all my specific steps for that task analysis, I just click what it says update. And there you go, you have your task analysis there. For the replacement programs, those are the most common ones. But if you have a data collection type of maybe you're not sure which one to choose from our list, You can always contact us using the online chat or write us an email at support@officepulso.com. Something very interesting that I would like to show you here is, for example, what if I'm not using what if I'm using level of prompts here? Let's get an example of brushing teeth, and let's say that I don't want to use the plus and minuses. I want to use plus, which means instead of successful response, it is something that you can also do. You can erase this part right here and represents the plus as an independent response. And we want to use, for example, other levels as level of prompts. For example, let me just think about it. We have verbal prompts, so I want to use a V, and that will be a verbal prompt. And then I'm going to have a physical prompt, right? Physical prompt. This is another example. And an interesting thing here is that this part that says value, if I have it in green, this will represent as a plus, right? Instead of plus, I'm just going to erase the plus and I'm going to use the I as an independent. And then if I have it in red, that will be that the data it's not going to be significant for if I put the V or of the P, right? So this two will represent as a negative. Later, I'm going to show you how this worked on the data collection sheets, but this is pretty much for you to see that you can actually set up specific levels within the data collection part. This is custom to your specific needs. You can personalize it as much as you like. But like I said before, by default, it's going to be the easiest, I will say, method for data collection will be the plus and minuses, but you can definitely add levels of prompts. Like I said before, this is specific for each client. If this is not on your client's program, just don't do it, I will say. But if you are collecting level of prompts, this is a way to do it. Not just with level of prompts, but for example, in the case of maladaptive behaviors, you can add levels of intensity. So you can follow the same principle. Let's say temper tantrums, we can add here on data collection, instead of X, which means occurrence of the event, we can add level 1, a level 2, and level 3. Meaning level 1, just a regular, I don't know, like something that is not very dangerous for the client. Then maybe level 2, he's hitting others, he's throwing himself on the floor. And level 3 being, I would say, that the most dangerous one, where actually he's getting hurt with this. You can type here specific what will represent each level. Let's put here level 1, level 2, and level 3. And a significant change that I did here is that I did put everything in green in this side because I am counting each one of these specific levels. So that's the reason why I put everything on green. So I'm just gonna leave it like this for the sake of the example, and we're just going to go to the data collection sheets at the end. Here in caregiver training, we can add, I'm just gonna add a program that I have here on the demo assessment. Just give me 1 second. For example, okay, I'm just gonna copy the name of my program for the parent training. I'm gonna click here where it says new item, and it's the same principle. You just write the name for the program. In this case, I'm going to be collecting using percentage of opportunities, but instead of 10, I just want to use 5. And I can copy and paste objectives here, but I'm just going to leave it in blank because you already know that part. So I'm just going to click update, and there you go. You have your caregiver training, your first call for caregiver training. So this will be the service plan. A few things here. What happens 6 months after I create my service plan? If the programs are still the same, you just simply do nothing. If a maladaptive behavior was recently added on the reassessment or a replacement program, you just create new item and you just add it as you add the rest. What if a program was mastered? So you just go to the program, you click on edit and you add here the end date. So this will prevent the system for keep generating these data sheets for a program that is already mastered. So that was for the service plan.